Every day we ask a different question of the universe, and as if by magic, an answer comes winging its way back towards us. Minett Thea asked this one all about the food chain. Why are humans at the top of the food chain? How did we come to be there? And are we at the top of the food chain? What eats us? Well, let's find out with Gabriela Contadines, who specialises in evolutionary anthropology at Oxford University. Hello to you, Gabriela. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Hiya.
So, first of all, explain. I wasn't expecting you to say hiya like that after the fabulousness of your name. Gabriela, the food chain, are we at the top of it, first of all?
So the short answer to that is no, we're not actually at the top of the food chain. It's a really interesting question because it kind of challenges our perception as rulers of the food chain, but it's just not the case.
Oh, okay. Well, that's quite disappointing then, because we were there this morning thinking, is anything at the top of the food chain? Is there anything that doesn't get eaten?
Yeah, so there is. So when we talk about food chains, we're talking about these things called trophic levels, which are positions of a species in the food web. And organisms that are in a low trophic level, so around 1, are things that make their own food, things like plants. And it goes all the way up to about 5.5, where you get apex predators. And these are animals like killer whales and boa constrictors, tigers, crocodiles, and they don't have any of their own natural predators. But more importantly, they only eat meat. And that is why we're not at the top of the food chain, because humans eat other things than just meat.
So that's the definition then. That stops us being, what do they call them? Apex predators. So we're not up there with boa constrictors. Oh, they seem quite cuddly. We're not up there with boa constrictors. And what else was there? Crocodiles, tigers, and killer whales.
Killer whales, yeah. So it's really interesting. So in 2015, a group of French scientists actually calculated the place that humans have in the food chain, or what we call a food web. And they did so using Food and Agriculture Organization national data. And they did it for 176 countries, so like over 98% of the world's population. And they found that while the level that humans occupy in the food chain does depend on location, we occupy about 2.2. We're at the level of 2.2, so that's the same position as pigs and anchovies, and that's because of our diet.
Wow, we're in the same position in the food chain as anchovies. That's made me feel really vulnerable.
So in reality, in industrial societies like in the UK, we're not very likely to be eaten by wild animals. But because we are omnivores, we can't occupy that top position of the food chain.
Right, because we need other things to survive.
Absolutely. So, for example, in the study that was done in 2015, the country with the lowest score, so the lowest down on the food chain for humans, was actually Burundi, because they eat a diet of about 96.7% plant-based, whilst the country with the highest score on the human food chain anyway, was Iceland, and that was about 2.54, because they eat pretty much 50-50 meat and plants. So we're kind of somewhere in between 2 and 2.5, depending on where we are in the world and what our diet looks like.
Right, here's some important science that I require from you then. If you're a vegan, you are lower down the food chain than somebody that eats meat. So that means I am higher up the food chain than producer Andrea, because she's a vegan and I am not.
So the data is done on national averages. So because you're both in the UK, the answer would probably be no. You occupy pretty much the same position.
Disappointing.
But the thing is while it's not a competition. Being at the top of the food chain isn't any better than being lower down the food chain for humans, because not very much is going to eat us anyway. And what this kind of calculation of human trophic levels doesn't take into account is the effects that we have on the environment and on the planet. So it's not taking into account human influence like biodiversity changes, climate changes, how we use land use. So actually vegans also have a similar impact on the planet than meat eaters do, although slightly less, because things like beef is very, very high intense farming and poor for land use. But yeah, humans in the UK have pretty much the same position in the food chain, and that's about 2.2 out of 5.5.
I was hoping that for once in my life I would have a position of power. I might have known that would be snatched from me really quickly.
it may make you feel better that you're very unlikely to be eaten by anything. So that might make you feel better.
That does make me feel a little bit better, because I do not want to be as vulnerable as an anchovy when I'm going around and about on my travels. So we're omnivorous then, that places us in a certain position in the food web. Is there any other animal that kind of comes close to us in the things that we do and the way we are in the food chain?
So, well, pigs eat a similar diet to us, but humans are unique in their in the impact that we have on the planet, which is not necessarily a good thing, to be honest, but that doesn't affect our position in the food web.
Okay, so we are on our own where we are, apart from with anchovies and pigs. That is the revelation of the day. Gabriella, fantastic. Thank you very much indeed for taking time out from your studies to tell us that.